that every part of us is created in wisdom and in order to be good, and everything about us, from our lowest passions to our highest endeavors, is basically good, basically sound. This is an extremely important point. And today we want to talk about what I've called the oppressive heart. Last time we talked about more the structure of the heart, and especially focusing on the irrational soul. So today we want to look at the oppressive heart, the heart that oppresses itself. And we can also refer to this as when things are upside down, when things are in disorder in ourselves. We noted yesterday that the lower self, the nafs, the irrational soul, which is a really good word for it in the beginning, is the place where anger and appetite are conjoined. And we pointed out that anger and appetite in their nature are something extremely positive. That's their purpose, and they're supposed to serve that purpose. But because of the way that the lower self is constructed with the dominance of appetite and anger, then it also constitutes our biggest challenge. And it's not the only challenge, but it is the challenge which many people are never able to get beyond. It constitutes for us the necessary foundation of our identity and of our hearts, and it brings us our greatest good. In order to develop a heart which interfaces between us and God, between the finite and the infinite, between the physical and the metaphysical, the spiritual and the physical, then we have to develop this lower self. We don't destroy it, we cultivate it, we edify it. We said the heart is an infinite treasure chest. It has this amazing receptivity to knowledge, and it can only access that truth, and it can only get that knowledge and develop good character if the irrational soul is in the right place. All right? So again, as we've said many times, it has never been part of the Islamic vision that we mortify the soul, that we eradicate our natural impulses, or that we deaden and destroy them. Our lower instincts are essential properties of the soul. We cultivate them by putting them and keeping them in the right place, at the right time, in the right order. And in fact, it is not possible to mortify or to eradicate these instincts and to get rid of these qualities and still become fully and dynamically human. To be the human being that we were created to be, all of this needs to be intact. All of this needs to be healthy and to be in the right place. Out of this then comes what we've called the heart of hearts, this ideal embodiment of us as noble human beings and as the heirs of Adam, alayhi salam, and Eve. The Quran speaks to this reality, the fact that the human being has in him or her instinctive qualities that are inseparably part of them. So, for example, one of the verses that we are given is the verse from Surah Al-Hashr, number 59, verse 9, and it's also in At-Taghabun, which is Surah 64:16. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And whoever is saved from the avarice of his soul will surely succeed. And the implication that some of the mufassirs give us in speaking about this verse is that your soul has in it avarice. So the shuh of our nafs is a fundamental part of our nafs. And avarice is excessive and insatiable desire for things, especially for wealth. It's a type of greediness that the soul has. Okay, so the verse indicates to us in a subtle way, and this is the way some of the greatest interpreters of the Quran have understood it, that you will always have this shuh in you. You will always have this basic element of avarice. However, you want to be protected from it. And in being protected from it, you want to have it in the right place. So it's part of our nature. And it must not be what dictates our active habits. We've got to be in control of it. It should not be in control of us. And in the sound human being, this aspect of shuh, of great avarice, should be focused on gaining the garden and seeking what is with Allah Azza wa Jal and seeking His pleasure. So we have great excessive desire, for Allah and for His garden. And then it's in the right place. And then it will serve to be a powerful impetus for us, right? It's a motor. It drives us towards these things that we are supposed to seek. So we don't try to destroy it. Also, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَلَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى, as the Quran says. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never speaks vainly. He never speaks out of mere whim. Whatever he says is true. And in this amazing hadith, which is transmitted by Bukhari and Muslim and others, the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا حسد إلا في اثنين. Literally, there is no jealousy, there is no hasad, except in two things or two people. رجل آتاه الله مالا فسلط على هلكته في الحق. ورجل آتاه الله الحكمة فهو يقضي بها ويعلمها. May Allah make us among those two categories. So there is only hasad in two types of people. One of them is a man to whom Allah has given great wealth, but then He gave him the power literally to destroy that wealth, to give it away freely in the truth, in justice, in goodness. So this is a person whom you should admire to the most extreme degree. And the other one is a man to whom Allah gave wisdom, and therefore he judges by it and he teaches it to others. Imam al-Bukhari, when he gives us this hadith, he puts it under irtibat. And the Prophet also, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taught us that this hasad is not really hasad, it is a ghibta. It is a joy that we have to get the same kind of good that we see other people have. But nevertheless, he uses the word hasad here, which is a very negative quality. But what he's saying, according to some of our scholars, is that we have that quality in us. And that quality is properly directed towards things that are very high, so that it is also transformed into a very positive quality. So instead of bringing about in us the desire that that good that other people have be lost or removed or they be hurt, we want to have that thing for ourselves. The Prophet also said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet also forbade tabakhtur. Tabakhtur is strutting like soldiers do. And traditional soldiers, especially in Muslim armies, they dressed really beautifully. They wore beautiful clothes. And they were allowed to put gold on their swords and silver on their daggers. And they were allowed to strut and to be almost ostentatious, okay? And this is something which is not a good quality, but in that situation it is. On the field of battle, before you meet the enemy, then this has its place. And Abu Dajana, may Allah be pleased with him, he put on his red turban and he strutted before Quraysh and he boasted and so forth, and the Prophet gave him his sword. Right? So all of these things have their place. And Imam Zarruq, may Allah be pleased with him, he speaks about this in great detail, that every human quality, from the worst qualities to the best qualities, they have their place in you. But you have to make sure they get in the right place. So avarice, the things that lead to hasad, the things that lead to ostentation and so forth, all of them are part of the sound human being, but they need to be properly ordered. And today, when we are very much concerned with psychological disorder, this is an overwhelming concern that we have as modern Western people. And no doubt one of the reasons for that is the fact that we have a big problem with sanity. And insanity is something that we live on the periphery of and that we encounter often in places where we don't even expect it. In traditional societies, you have insanity also. And I've been in traditional societies where there will be in a village of maybe 1,000 people, maybe there'll be one person who is conspicuously insane. And often, in my experience, treated very well, in fact. Everybody knows that they have the condition they have, and they treat them sort of like children. I've seen that. To me, it's very edifying. Okay? But like insanity is not the norm by any means. But today we have done so many things. We have altered so many things. We've also filled our minds with images and with cognitive frames that make it difficult to access the truth. So therefore we have a big problem with insanity. And in many of our societies, clinical psychiatrists or psychologists will even say that maybe 1 out of every 4 people is clinically insane, maybe even more than that. So this is a big problem. But insanity also, from our standpoint, is essentially not having things in the right place, not having the gift of image making, khayal, where it ought to be, not having the gift of wahm, which is the ability to imagine illusory things, but to know that they're illusions, not having in the right place. And then also another dimension of insanity is the role of Satan, because Satan plays a very fundamental role in schizophrenia and different types of psychological disorders. But we have to get things in order. We have to reconstruct the human being. And inshallah, then the human being will be sound. Again, we're not about destroying things. If a person has a great psychological disorder, then we would strive in our own psychiatry and psychology to find ways to put it back in order. Not to get rid of that imagination. Not to get rid of the power that person has in dealing with images. But to get them right, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. To put the house back in order.